When are you considered an entrepreneur? The moment you start investing stuff, or after you've made your first earnings, or after your business is stable and successful? What's your opinion? I would say as soon as you start putting your time, energy, and money into a business, that makes you an entrepreneur.
I'll go further back than that.
Okay.
My daughter wants to set up a lemonade stand to start making money. And she is already designing the stand that apparently I will be building.
But that's now putting her time and energy into something.
Correct. So, but I would say the moment she started thinking about how to make money in other ways than working directly for someone else, made her an entrepreneur.
So thinking about it is the... There's a lot of people come up with ideas and think about things, don't actually do anything with it.
So I think that is what gives you the entrepreneurial mindset.
Sure.
I think when you take the first step. When she started drawing what she wanted.
Then she's an entrepreneur. Yeah. Yes, I agree.
She has started the process of entrepreneurship.
Once you've started expending energy toward that idea, then I think you're an entrepreneur.
Comes back to what I was saying earlier, right? It's not the big decisions, because you can decide, I'm going to open a business. Well, if you don't take that first step and start drawing out what you want inside of that business, you're never going to do it.
Exactly.
So the fact that she started drawing out what she wanted the stand to look like, now there's no way in hell that I'm going to be able to build this stand. It's going to be a very ugly version of her stand. Yeah. But the fact that she started taking steps towards it, and she started looking up lemonade recipes. She started asking me, how do I make lemonade? Because I cook like a lot, right? So I explain to them why I do certain things and foods and ingredients. And we were reading one of the Disney stories about a beignet competition that the Princess and the Frog, what's her name?
I never saw it.
Okay, so
my kids were much older by
She
then.
goes to France to compete in a beignet contest, and her secret ingredient is nutmeg on the beignets, right? So she already started asking, can we put a secret ingredient in my lemonade that makes it better, right? And I was explaining to her that, what sweeteners you use can change the flavor, whether you use 100% real lemon or you use citric acid and all these things. So I ended up with lemons and pre-mixed lemonade and citric acid and fake lemon juice. And she wanted to start testing making lemonade. So
that's the entrepreneurial spirit right there, man. I love it.
I was like, I am so impressed, and I'm trying to encourage her to, let's by summer, like by end of June, the goal should be, we should have developed the recipe for your lemonade.
Yep.
And we should have the stand ready. And I've already prepared her that she might only sell 2 lemonades on her first day. But if she's going to do it, we might have to commit to having that lemonade stand every Saturday for at least a month before she starts seeing customers.
Yep.
But yeah, I would say she is an entrepreneur, and she's 8.
That's great. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right? So
nothing wrong with that at all. Get that mindset early.
Right. So I think you and I both agree on it. It's when you start taking the first steps.
Yeah.
Right? You have the entrepreneurial mindset, but you don't become an entrepreneur until you take that first step, however small that is.
Yeah.
The moment you go out and buy those lemons, right? It's part of it.
I mean, when I was 10, maybe 11 years old, I used to go to, a couple days before Christmas, I would go to the local pharmacy. I forget. It wasn't CVS or anything at the time. I forget what it was. But this particular pharmacy by my house would always sell things. Everything's like half off after Christmas. Well, for some reason, a couple days before Christmas, they would start that sale. Yeah. So I would go and I would buy a bunch of stuff. And then I would go around to houses and knock on the doors and sell it. Yeah. Right. I'd buy it for $2 and I'd sell it for $4 or $5. And, I inevitably would get rid of everything. And people loved it. That's an entrepreneur right there, 10 years old, you know?
Yeah. I remember like when I had to take my first job because I saw this bike that I wanted. And my parents said, if you want it, you're going to have to figure out how to buy it. So I took my first paper route. And I remember doing that paper route. And one Saturday I was like, there's got to be a better way to make money than this.
There is.
Yeah, but that was my beginning journey of
Right.
of not wanting to work for someone else. And since that day, I spent the rest of my life figuring out how not to work for someone else. That there's got to be a better way to make money, right?
The only reason I took a job out after college was to learn business, to learn because I had my business major, but you don't really learn how to run a business in college. So I worked for 2 different corporations over about 3.5 years. Learned quite a bit. I was never just the guy that would just do my job and go home. I'm talking with the CEO. I'm trying to learn from them. I'm trying to, I was working with a $2 billion company before I went out on my own, and I'm sitting with the CEO learning from them how to do things. And I still use some of those things today.
So I took a different route. I decided that in order to learn business, I had to learn every aspect of it. So I took jobs with anything from cleaning the business to warehouse management, to sales, to management. And I worked in all of those roles for years. And it's amazing how I've used little bits of everything that I learned along the way to do what I do today.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I took the job for a startup, it was basically a startup restaurant. They had been around for like 6 months, and there was no guarantee that restaurant was going to even survive the summer. Right. But I went on board and I took a job with them because I wanted to learn, like, what does it take to build a restaurant basically from scratch? Because a 3-month-old restaurant is in its infancy, right? Mm-hmm. You're still learning how, like, okay, what are the menus going to look like? What wines are we going to offer? What's the service level going to be? Like they were still figuring all the little details out. And it was a fantastic learning experience.
Yeah. And that's a lot of times what entrepreneurship is. Mm-hmm. It's not going out there and making $1 million right away. It's little steps along the way where you make connections. You learn how to actually build and structure a business. You learn what not to do in a lot of cases. You learn about money, which is 95% of the people, and especially in the United States, don't even know what money really is and how to use it properly. They think it's for buying stuff. That's not what money's for. It's so not in business anyway. So you learn so much about yourself, about running a business along the way, starting at 8, like your daughter, or, starting in high school or wherever this person is. When are you an entrepreneur? As soon as you put some energy into it and just keep doing that.
I still remember the day I quit my sales job, and it was a cushy job.
Yeah.
Right. Like I had it easy in that job. I had a company vehicle, company cell phone. I was working maybe 30, 35 hours a week. Like it was a cushy job. And one day I was like, I can't do this anymore, because it was actually, my uncle owned the company with a partner. My uncle wasn't involved, and the partner took over, and I started seeing stuff that I was like, this is questionable at best. Like, I don't want to be around this. But I left that job and I took a job as a commission salesperson for a guy that at the time was starting a web development company.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, this is 2003. And we've had this conversation before. I said, like, my first cold calls were, have you heard about this thing called the internet? Right. But I always remember I was talking to him, and he's kind of the guy, I credit him with a lot of my success, both in business and in life. He was in his 50s when I met him, and he had started 13 businesses, which were all in operation under its original EIN number still.
Oh, wow.
Anything from, so he actually started his career as a rally car driver, and then he started some kind of food company and all kinds of stuff. And he was working on the company I was with which was the web development company that we ended up, I franchised that business for him. So he took me to the UK. I got to talk to some of the top like franchise experts and how to develop systems. I got to meet the founder of WSI, which is one of the largest internet franchises in the world.
Yep.
Actually got to spend like almost a week with him, just learning. And
that's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, like it's all kinds of stuff.
That is so invaluable.
But I was paid shit, right? Because I was a commission sales guy, not working on selling at that point.
Right.
Right. So like I was selling on the side and doing these things. And then we took on a couple of big projects, and he was like, I'm going to pay you a little bit more, but I want you to project manage this as well because you have the best relationship with the client.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned how to manage software projects and development and waterfall drawings. And like, I didn't realize at the time that like he was educating me through having me do different types of work.
That is cool.
And by the time like I left, and so actually the way it ended was I came to the US because he wanted to open up operations in the US.
Yeah.
And I had been here for not even a year when I get a phone call from him. And it was weird because he never called me because at the time it was international rates, right? Like, so all communication was email or Skype, but he actually called me.
Yeah.
And he goes, I got something I need to discuss with you, because he had actually given me 5% of the company back in Iceland. So I had equity in the main company, right? And I had equity in the US company, which is actually how we did the management transfer, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
So he calls me and he goes, so I've decided to sell the company. And you have two options. He's like, you can either stay on, keep your equity, and this new guy becomes your partner, so to speak, and you can keep doing what you're doing. He's like, or we can negotiate in the buyout process that you get the North American rights to all of our software, because he has no intention of keeping going in the US. And it was one of those moments. I knew the guy that he was selling to, and I was like, I don't want to.
Yeah, you don't be partners with that guy.
No. So basically, I was in the US at that point in time with a place to stay, someone to give me roof over my head and feed me if I absolutely had to.
Yep.
But basically, it was, now you're on your own. It's now your business. You got to figure this out. Actually, all the designers, all the software programmers, when they found out that I was splitting out, all wanted to come with me. Cool. And I told them all, like, I have no revenue. Like,
right.
We were doing legwork here. Like, I haven't started selling, right? Like, not really, because we were doing all the prep work and the legal and everything that comes with the franchising in the US. So yeah, I basically got the rug pulled from out under me and had to figure it out. Like, from that day on, it was, if I was going to make any money, I had to go make it.
Yeah. And look where you are now.
Well, yeah.
Took some time to get there, but
yeah.
But I mean, look at all the things you learned along the way.
Mm-hmm.
You might not have learned half of it if you weren't thrown to the wolves like that.
And it's odd because, like, now when I hire people, especially straight out of college, I always tell them I'm not going to pay you really well your first year, because your first year you're going to learn more than you did in the 4 years of college. So I don't want you to consider this as your dream job. The first year is us going to be teaching you and seeing what you're capable of. And then after the first year, we can have the conversation of how we should be compensating you long term. Yeah. And it's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people coming out of college, right?
Yeah, because they have these dreams of making $200,000 right away and living in nice apartments with nice cars.
Correct.
Where the heck was that? That doesn't exist.
But we found out that almost everybody that comes to us with a college degree that was specialized in anything that we do, 95% of the knowledge they have is useless to us.
Yeah.
So we literally have to spend almost a full year training them, first untraining them from what they learned, to then train them how to do the job properly. Yeah. Right. And I'm like, that is time and effort and money on our behalf that we're spending on you to make you a better employee, not just for us, but if you decide to leave here in a year or 6 months, whatever it is, then you will have a much better opportunity to do so.
Agreed.
And I've had software developers that used to work for us that ended up at like Ubisoft and Amazon Web Services. And
we had a bunch of guys here that wound up at Comcast.
Yeah.
Comcast scooped them right up.
Oh, yeah.
We trained them for a year and then they went over to Comcast.
The funny thing is, like, when the first one went to Ubisoft, we were like, oh, that's really cool. And then the second one went and we're like, wait a minute. And then the third one went and then we're like, are they like hunting us down? So I called the first lady that went to Ubisoft and I asked her flat out, and I'm like, are they headhunting people that come from us? And she's like, oh yeah, they were so impressed. They asked where I got my training. So they're going on LinkedIn and finding other people that list that as a workplace and they're sending them job offers.
Oh man.
I took it as a compliment.
Yeah, but you can't
Right?
compete against that.
No, I know, but I was okay because I've always said I want people to use my business as a stepping stone. I want you to come work for me and learn so that you can have better opportunities, right? So like for me, that was like validation that what we were doing was actually working. Like we were taking them in, we were training them properly.
Right.
They were getting that extra level of education and we were compensating them, maybe not really well, but it gave them a pathway to even better opportunities. And that's always been part of our mission, for example. Like we literally have it written in our mission and mission statement that we want to be a stepping stone.
That is pretty cool. All right. We should move on to one more here. But let's see. That was, who was that? That was this guy here. Final Pipe 2503. I hope that gives you some information on, when you can consider yourself an entrepreneur. There's a variety of ways, but again, I think as soon as you start taking that first step toward building a business, and even if you don't wind up actually building it doesn't matter. I still think you're an entrepreneur for trying.
If you found this clip interesting, make sure to go listen to the full podcast. There's lots more content there.